Could you explain, because I'm a little confused about the relationship, could you explain the relationship between the Rodale Institute and the Rodale Press?
Yeah. Well, the Rodale Institute is a public non-profit. It was started by my father in 1947 as a public foundation.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally called the Soil and Health Foundation. The purpose was to ask readers of Organic Gardening magazine for contributions to be used for research by universities in organic farming.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite successful in getting contributions. They did put together, in those days, a fairly sizable amount of money. What was really fascinating is they could not find a single university that would accept the money. So
they had the money to give, and no one would take it?
No one would take it.
Because of what you wanted them to do with it?
Right. And we weren't saying that they had to prove that organic gardening was better. We just wanted them to do some research in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally we could get the scientists to say, okay, yeah, we'll do this, but it was always killed by the board of directors of the university. Mm-hmm. So that speaks a lot to the climate in those days. The attitude then was that no person with any advanced degree, whether master's or PhD in agriculture, could ever work in organic farming because it was just voodoo.
Now, are we still talking the 40s, or are we coming to the 50s?
This was the 50s,
mm-hmm.
40s, I would say mid-50s. Mm-hmm. It didn't really begin to change very slowly. Maybe even got worse during the 60s, but in the 70s it began to change. So what we did with the Soil and Health Foundation, we more or less put it in mothballs. It was a shell. And then my father died in 1971, and we, at that time, we then bought the what we call the new farm in Maxitani, which is now the Rodale Research Center.
In Maxitani?
Maxitani, Pennsylvania. It's near Kutztown, about 12 miles west of here. And we decided to set up a more effective research center, and we changed the name of first we called it Soil and Health Society to make it more of a membership mm-hmm. organization. Then we changed the name to Rodale Institute, and we expanded the board. It's a long story, but it's completely independent of Rodale Press. It has a separate board of directors. Mm-hmm. I'm the chairman of it, as I am of Rodale Press, but it is recognized by the Internal Revenue Service as a public charity. And it has not only 501c3, but it has a 509a1 status, like a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And
so contributions to it are tax deductible?
Contributions to it are tax deductible. Mm-hmm. And we've actually been able to get special permission from IRS for my mother to transfer some of her preferred stock in Rodale Press to the Institute, which is very unique to get that permission.
Yes, and why did you want to do that? I'm sorry.
Well, it was for her estate planning purpose, but also to help and to help the Institute. But one of the reasons that permission was given was because the Institute does so much work for the federal government, for Agency for International Development and USDA.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about, was the number of organizations you cooperate with and you work with the federal government. Mm-hmm. Is that one of your biggest cooperators?
It could well be. Well, the Institute now gets a lot of support from membership. It has about 50,000 donors. Publishes the New Farm magazine. Yes. And it gets foundation grants, sometimes like about $1 million some years. Mm-hmm. And then it gets, it has the Agricultural Research Service person and program within it. We have AID grants, mm-hmm. mostly for tropical and African work. And of course the LISA program, we get mm-hmm. some grants from that.
I want to talk about that a little more, but I was wanting to go back to publishing New Farm. the Institute publishes it, but it's published by the press.
No.
No?
Well, you see, the magazine that I started editing in 1949, The Organic Farmer,
Mm-hmm.
Was published by Rodale Press for many years. About 5 years, like in, say, in 1954, my father came to me one day and he says, you know, he said, last week we took in, or yesterday maybe, we took in $50. I said, you can't publish a magazine on $50 a day. We're losing so much money. We're going to have to end this magazine and incorporate it in organic gardening, which was traumatic for me, but so I had to agree.
Mm-hmm.
So for many years, it was organic gardening and farming, and all our farming work was done in organic gardening. Then about the mid-70s, farming is so different from gardening that the readers, they were very tolerant of it for a while, but the gardening part began to grow so much, and we get so many people in who had absolutely no interest in farming. So we realized to help organic gardening, we had to split the magazine off again. So we split off and made a farm magazine, and then called it The New Farm.
Mm-hmm.
It was published by Rodale Press, but it again lost a lot of money, more and more every year. And then we decided to discontinue it and convert it into a newsletter. And we sent out letters to the readers that from here on, you're only going to get a newsletter. And the reaction was so negative and strong. They said, oh, this can't happen. Isn't there anything you can do to keep the New Farm alive? So we said, well, gee, if we gave it to the Rodale Institute, they get a lower postal rate.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they can keep it going. So we made a gift of the New Farm from Rodale Press to the Rodale Institute.
Okay.
And they had a lower overhead anyway. They cut costs, and they really have been quite successful with it.
Yes, they certainly have. What a different reaction from your subscribers and from your father's original
right.
attempt
Yeah.
to get a response.
Mm-hmm.